It's the 23rd annual Kansas African American Museum Tribute to Trailblazers Hall of Fame, a celebration honoring Kansans who lead, innovate, and pioneer. This year, the Kansas African American Museum will showcase African Americans from Kansas who are the heroes, thinkers, creators, and visionaries who have made significant contributions to our society and have built a strong foundation for generations to come. It is with pleasure that we honor the Mwezi sisters, digital platform entrepreneurs from Wichita, Kansas; John McClendon, the first African-American coach in professional basketball; Karen S. Carter, a global visionary in diversity, equity, and inclusion; Brian Alexander Morgan, a Grammy-nominated record producer from Wichita, Kansas; and the Honorable Gwen Berzer, federal magistrate judge for the United States District Court of Kansas. And our MC for tonight's showcase, the incomparable Felicia Rolfe.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 23rd Annual Trailblazers Hall of Fame. I'm Felicia Rolfe, your host for this year's exciting celebration. We have an exciting roster of inductees this year for you, and we celebrate their many accomplishments locally, nationally, and globally. For more than 2 decades, TKAAM has honored pioneers who have helped shape the American experience. This year's theme, Inspire, Ignite, Innovate, and Embracing the Future, speaks to the perseverance, vision, and commitment needed to excel at every opportunity. Facing obstacles, challenges, and setbacks only strengthen their resolve, resulting in blazing a trail in uncharted territory. It's a delight to start our program from right here, the Kansas African American Museum, located in Wichita, Kansas. The museum, home to African American legends such as Fern Merrifield Van Giesen, social activist and founding member of the Wichita chapter of the Urban League; Delano E. Lewis, attorney, Kansas civic leader, and U.S. ambassador to South Africa; and Carol Parks Hahn, who provided leadership to the NAACP and was central to the success of integrating segregated lunch counters during the 1958 Dockham drugstore sit-in right here in Wichita, just to name a few. We continue our long-standing tradition of showcasing Kansans who have made great contributions to American society and are building a legacy of success for others to follow. This evening's honors will start by highlighting 2 innovative sisters who are rising stars in technology. And this year, our Trailblazers represent a variety of professions, including sports, business, diversity, equity, and inclusion, music production, law, and civil leadership. One common thread with all of our honorees is their personal dedication to building a core foundation centered on this year's themes. So let's get started with the song that will ignite us in the right direction. Derek Autry highlights acts of humanity, kindness, and our amazing trailblazers.
How you doing? How you been? How's your family? Good to see you, my friend. And these are things that we rarely hear. Wish I could tell you why, but I don't know the deal. So we should pull out a chair and open the door. These are the things we don't see no more. If we sit together, we can open the door. Bring back to humanity. Doesn't matter if you left or right. All you need to really do is stand up and fight. Don't need a reason, just do what's right. Get back to humanity. Inflation is way too high. People with good jobs are just barely getting by. But we're making, we still have a chance. Look out for your fellow man and help out every time you can. It won't take too much of your precious time to give someone in need $1 or a dime. All in for love is the way we should be for humanity. Pull out a chair and open the door. These are the things we don't see no more. If we sit together, we can open the door. Bring back to humanity. It doesn't matter if you left or right. All you need to really do is stand up and fight. Don't need a reason, just do what's right. Back to humanity. Pull out a chair and open the door. These are the things we don't see no more. If we sit together, we can open the door. Bring back to humanity. It Doesn't matter if you left or right. All you need to really do is stand up and fight. Don't need a reason, just do what's right. Get back to humanity. Get back to humanity. Of your precious time to give someone any dollar. All that for love is the way we should be for humanity. Pull out a chair and open the door. These are the things we don't see no more. If we stick together, we can open the door. Bring back to humanity. Doesn't matter if you left or right. All you need to really do is stand up and fight. Don't need a reason, just do what's right. Back to humanity. Pull out a chair and open the door. These are the things we don't see no more. If we stick together, we can open the door. Bring back to humanity. Doesn't matter if you left or right. All you need to really do is stand up and fight. Don't need a reason, just do what's right. Get back to humanity. Pull out a chair and open the door. These are the things we don't see no more. If we stick together, we can open the door. Bring back to humanity. Doesn't matter if you left or right. All you need to really do is stand up and fight. Don't need a reason, just do what's right. Back to humanity. Pull out a chair and open the door. These are the things we don't see no more. If we stick together, we can open the door. Bring back to
All right, thank you so much, Derek. How powerful and soul-stirring. We now invite Denise Sherman, the Executive Director for TKAAM, to share a few words about the arts and artifacts of the museum.
Inspire.
Dr. Samela S. Lewis, a nationally recognized artist, art historian, art educator, writer, and filmmaker from New Orleans, Louisiana, advocated for African American artists, as well as spaces to showcase their work. Dr. Lewis traveled extensively around the world and felt strongly that familiarizing ourselves with our historical and contemporary art helped us better understand and know ourselves. In 1998, Dr. Samela Lewis gifted a portion of her private collection of paintings and sculptures by leading African American artists, as well as a large collection of her own work. These gifts formed the foundation of the permanent art collection of the Kansas African American Museum.
Thank you, Denise. Just as Calvary Baptist Church became a beacon of light, our honorees inspire us to find strength to overcome, press our way through, and succeed. So tonight, we celebrate our ability to find ways to band together and unite for a better future. There is no better way than to join us as we celebrate our 2023 honorees.
People have told us that because you're Black women, some people, they'll listen to you, but they may not actually have faith that you can build this, that they will literally look at you and automatically discredit you, which is something that I was not expecting at all coming into this. But honestly, it's given us even more fire. We always had the idea that if we work together, we can make things happen.
Our origin story really kind of dates back to my parents, I would say. They were immigrants from Uganda, East Africa, and they came to the United States in 1980. So that's a big part of who we are. And also I think just why we're so scrappy is because watching our parents as immigrants in this country really trying to build a life from scratch for themselves in a foreign country for them was really a first-hand look at what it meant to be an entrepreneur, to build something from nothing.
Many kids in America, by the time they turn 16, his birthday and there's a car and those types of things. Angela and Deborah had to buy their car, but they worked for their initial payment. They came with their jug of pennies and there was $1,000 in that jar, and they went and made their initial down payment, so to say, for their car. Solving problems here and there. Sometimes it's only when you look back and say, you did this, you did that, you did that. You don't realize that things like that can actually remain probably in terms of their own development and seeking for solutions for problems and things like that.
Who's the brains and who's the ideas? I would say Angela is definitely more of the ideas. She's the one who even had the whole idea to begin with. She had it on her vision board, I think back in 2017. And so she always had this idea for something that could help mainly the students that she worked with at the time.
So I had the opportunity of working in inner city high schools as a career and educational counselor. I would see so many of my students struggling to find job opportunities. In the middle of the night, it was like 4 a.m. when she called me and she said, Angie, hi. And I was like, hello, it's 4 a.m. Like, are you okay? And she's like, the app. You remember the app that you were talking about?
So WorkTorch was formerly known as Quick Hire, and what we do is we are a career empowerment platform. Our goal is to help people, particularly hourly workers, find long-term careers that they love, and therefore help employers who help employ hourly workers hold on to talent longer.
I first met Deborah and Angela as they were conceiving the idea of Quick Hire, its name at the time, because boy, all of those hospitality employees, all those restaurant employees, all those hotel employees that had been basically sent home while we all figured out what was going on with the pandemic, were going to need rapidly to be rehired, replaced, and guided on the next step of a journey at a very difficult time. And so we helped connect Deborah and Angela with prospective business customers to really test out whether this idea they had was a market worth serving, a product worth developing. Really, the idea was born and their very, very hard work began.
So first, from the business side of things, them having a tech startup in the middle of Kansas isn't really known oftentimes, right? You don't think of tech and startup as a Wichita thing. So that's great that they're really helping materialize that industry here.
We really wanted to ignite people's passions and be, a guiding light, a torch, if you will, for their careers.
Not just doing it for us, but we're doing it for the other Black young women that want to get into the tech space. There needs to be more of us. There isn't enough.
Deborah and Angela represent founders that are traditionally underserved by startup programs, by growth capital markets. And they've pushed past that. And they've done so right here in the heartland, in our backyard. And it's just exciting to watch that happen and to have them beat those odds and continue to grow.
If I had to give advice to someone with a great idea but didn't know where to start, I would just first and foremost say, just do it. Just do something. And every day, just try to take one step forward. It may just be one, it may not be 12 steps, but if you can make one step forward on your idea, eventually you'll get yourself going.
So in my tribe, which is called Toro tribe, we have 12 names that we share. Very special names, names of honor.
So Mwezi means helper, somebody who helps.
Deborah's name is Namara, meaning God is enough. But it can also mean you are enough. Believe in yourself.
Angela's name is Asimwe, and that means God is enough.
The clients that we serve, we're really helping them provide for their families by finding them jobs and then helping them build their careers. So it's really cool taking a step back and seeing how many lives that you've affected essentially by helping them get careers with the tools that we've created.
For them, they realized that all of the job search companies that were out there were really transactional. Just quick, get it over with, give me your resume, get out the door. They really approached it from a, hey, let's start a relationship. Let's start this with, what are your dreams? And that was what piqued my curiosity as to why this was different from other job search companies, and quite frankly, why I invested with them.
When you work with individuals that are here that really from the grassroots of creating something, there's a lot of reasons why we want to be engaged. And certainly one is to come alongside individuals like that so that we can see them to be successful. The other is that they really add to the distinctiveness of our city. You know, we truly are a vibrant global city of possibility that really does invest in itself, will take risk, will defy expectations. And so I think what Deborah and Angela have done with the app that they have with WorkTorch is that it's saying, hey, we can defy things that people may not think that we can do it. And as a result of that, you're put on a global stage.
I think when it comes to embracing the future, they have not only done that, but they've taken it a step further, and they're really forging the future for people in this industry, for careers in this industry. And I'm excited to see where they go next in this future that they're building.
Of our business, of our lives, of our stories personally, that it's just the beginning. On behalf of my sister and I, we just want to thank the Kansas African American Museum for this amazing recognition. Thank you so much for everything you do for entrepreneurs and people like myself in the community. Also want to take the opportunity to thank our amazing WorkTorch team members, current and former. Thank you so much for everything you've done to help us build the company. We're forever grateful for that. Also want to thank our wonderful investors. Thank you for believing in us, for writing a check when it mattered most. We thank you forever for that. We want to thank our wonderful family, our husbands, our children, cousins, sisters. Thank you for supporting our crazy idea, for getting behind us from day one. We love you so much. Last but not least, would love to thank my awesome sister Angela for pulling me into this crazy big idea of building WorkTorch. It's been a blast.
We would like to thank Robert Brogdon Automotive as our presenting sponsor for the evening.
Who are we? We are the Kansas African American Museum, where we provide a culminating experience of people, pride, and place. We celebrate the richness of the African American experience and its influence on American culture and history that continues to define our country today. We are more than the housing of collections. We provide a space to explore, reflect, and remind us of our interconnectedness. We invite you to become a member and supporter of the Kansas African American Museum. We are culture.
Congratulations, Deborah and Angela, well deserved. Now, our next honoree was a groundbreaking coach in the arena of basketball. Now, he was a leader whose legacy influenced the game that has impacted so many. Here's Angela Buckner to share more.
Hello, I'm Angela Buckner, Recreation Supervisor, Parks and Recreation with the City of Wichita, Youth Sports Advocate and inductee of the Wichita State Hall of Fame and Kansas Sports Hall of Fame for women's basketball. I am proud to serve on the Board of Directors for the Kansas African American Museum. I am honored to present the 2023 Trailblazers Hall of Fame Award to a groundbreaking superstar who has changed the culture of sports and elevated collegiate and professional basketball. Congratulations to John McClendon for breaking barriers and blazing a trail for others to excel.
So John McClendon is nothing short of a legend here at the University of Kansas. He was the first black graduate from the School of Sports Management back in the 1930s. Because of his time here, segregation being prevalent, he was unable to participate on the men's basketball team, but he became the understudy of James Naismith, which is a pretty cool mentor to have. And as the story goes, his father told John that, hey, you need to go talk to Dr. Naismith, tell him that you want to be a basketball coach, tell him you want to have an influence of the game. And he did that, and he walked into Dr. Naismith's office and said, my dad told me to talk to you, and that's where the relationship took off. Dr. Naismith was trying to think of a way to make the game more exciting, and John McClendon was thinking of a way to make the game more competitive. And so the two really converged and created what we know basketball is today.
Just imagine this, the game was played by walking the ball down the floor. John McClendon had to say, oh no, we can go faster than this. So fast break, I want to make the game as fast as I can make it. So if I can have everybody sprinting down, scoring, that's great. The concept is that you want to get down the floor faster than the defense so that you can have an easy score. Say, for instance, the opposing team shoots and the ball misses and it comes off the rim. You want to grab that rebound. You want to be the first to it. You want to turn and make an outlet pass, preferably have the ball not touch the floor. So if I can grab a rebound, turn and make an outlet pass to my wing, and just keep pushing it down the floor. Everyone knows they've got to go. But the four corners, on the other hand, I want to slow the game down as slow as I can make it. So I've got a player in each corner, and I have my ball handler in the middle dribbling. And I just dribble around, and it forces the defense to have to spread out and possibly give the dribbler a one-on-one to the basket. But all that came from John McClendon.
I think it's important to recognize that John McClendon, didn't simply revolutionize the game of basketball, which in itself is miraculous, going from using peach baskets and being in different parts of the court to fast break and running above the rim and all that good stuff, but also helped spark the civil rights movement, right? And I think there should be something that should be said of how John McClendon needs to be in the same sentence as Jackie Robinson, as Martin Luther King, right? And having that awareness around John McClendon being in the Shirley Chisholms of the world, because he really did that from a civil rights activism standpoint. He was personable, he was approachable, but he had values, he had morals, and he wasn't afraid to share that with people. And so a good example of that, he helped with the secret game, the first integrated game on record between his North Carolina Central men's basketball team and the Duke medical club team. Between North Carolina Central and the Duke medical team, a lot of chit chat about who's really the best. So John McClendon, in true John McClendon fashion, said, well, let's find a gym, let's get a ball, and let's get after it. And so it was a secret game for a reason. There was actually some legal punishment for integration at the time, and so it had to be all under wraps. And so for just the logistics and the orchestration in the secret game itself, it's pretty admirable. But then what John McClendon did after the two teams had competed, the legend goes, is that the teams actually integrated. So they went shirts and skins, white players, black players, playing the game of basketball, and really giving us a preview of what sports looks like today in totality. You think about college basketball, you think about the NBA, the WNBA, you think about amateur basketball, high school sports. It could all really be traced to that secret game.
Being young, anybody of color, not just John, who expired and did something, it was very important to us. And the fact that John did the things that he was doing, he was related, he's from Kansas, it made your heart just so full to know that he was our real. Yeah, and I think he laid the groundwork for a lot of us children to go ahead and be successful in life. And if it wasn't for having somebody like him to look up to, Lord knows where we could have ended up.
Because he is an innovator. His legacy is an inspiration to all. He gets you excited. I'm ignited. I want to go out here and work on my game. I want to think about the game and figure out some unique way to play it. And he just forged a path, which has impacted all of basketball. When you think of what he's known for, there are people that come along and tell you things and show you things, and it's just, you're able to connect the dots and to believe so easily that it is possible. Because in the end, they say so, and they look like you, and they've been through what you've been through, so it's like, oh yes, let's go. We can do this. It inspired me to go overseas and play. It inspired me to go to the Olympics.
John McClendon saw past what was in front of him, right? Sometimes you think about seeing the forest beyond the one tree that's right and prevalent in your face, and there's examples of that, right? You think about, again, I keep going back to it, the game of basketball itself at the time, right? It was very stagnant, and John McClendon saw what we see today. Not only did he revolutionize the game of basketball and help changed how the game was literally played, how the game was recruited, how the game is thought of. But he led, the early onset of the civil rights movement with some of the work that he did with integration. And I think it's important to make sure we recognize that he trailblazed from the sport of basketball to civil rights activism.
We would like to thank Evergy, our honorary sponsor for the evening.
Who are we? We are the Kansas African American Museum, where we collaborate and connect the rich history of Kansas and the African American experience. We encourage you to get your passport and travel the Kansas African American History Trail. From Nicodemus to John Brown to Gordon Parks to Brown versus Board of Education, you can see all of this and more on the Kansas African American History Trail. We are culture.
Ignite.
The Kansas African American Museum is steeped in history from the early beginnings of Calvary Baptist Church, which transitioned into the First National Black Historical Society of Kansas, and then the Kansas African American Museum. Throughout this journey, our purpose, our overall mission has never wavered: to honor, celebrate, preserve, and ignite others to learn more about African American history, value our heritage, and appreciate the rich legacy of our ancestors who built this community and others like them across the state of Kansas, throughout the United States, and globally.
Mastering the intersection of business operations and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just one example of the many accomplishments of this next Trailblazer. As a global leader in business, this first Chief Inclusion Officer at a Fortune 500 company has shown the world how you can ignite progress through empowerment. Let's hear more from TKAAM board member Dr. Kay Monk-Morgan.
Greetings. I'm Dr. Kay Monk-Morgan, President and CEO of the Kansas Leadership Center. I'm proud to serve as a board member of the Kansas African American Museum. I'm honored to present the 2023 Trailblazer Hall of Fame Award to Karen S. Carter, a trailblazer who embodies leadership principles while energizing others and championing business initiatives for the betterment of our society. Congratulations to Karen S. Carter, 2023 Trailblazer.
I don't think the words status quo are anywhere in Karen's vocabulary. She is a disruptor. She is a visionary leader. She doesn't always know the answers to everything, but she has a way of taking us from good to great to excellent. She knows what excellence looks like. That is just one bad sister, because when you meet Karen, you don't necessarily just meet her, you experience her. You experience her candor and her confidence, her drive and determination, her humility and her honesty. You experience the force that is Karen, and you also realize very quickly that she's a whole lot of fun.
You know, I've had the honor of being introduced all over the world, and I am always proud to say that I am from this great place called Wichita, Kansas, because Wichita shaped me. I graduated from a daycare called Little Pals, owned and operated by Mrs. Hayes, who created a safe and loving place for anyone and everyone to learn and thrive. She told me I was smart, and I believed her. I was and am a product of the Wichita Public Schools, having matriculated through Buckner Elementary, Robinson Junior High, and East High, where I encountered phenomenal educators, like Mrs. Jackson, who was more than my junior high typing teacher. She was one of my first examples of a professional woman. And Ms. Thacker, who instilled in me the importance of finding and sharing my unique voice. Today, I may be the president of a $29 billion business at Dow called Packaging and Specialty Plastics, but you could say that I started my business career at a place called Kenmar Family Drugs on 13th and Oliver, where Daryl and Sylvia Steinschauer taught me the importance of work ethic and customer service, and importantly, of being able to count change without a computer.
As we were growing up, of course, Carla and I, it was just the two of us for a long time. There are 8 years between Carla and Karen. and we call her Boo. So if you hear us interchange, we're referring to Karen when we call her Boo. But once she came along, of course, the family dynamics changed.
You know, she's always been a leader, even from being in St. Paul AME. You know, remember when she was little, she was always up. We'd see her always speaking. She was over the YPD, which is the Young People's Department. I mean, I think back to her, remember at East Highkill, she was an IB, she was a model. I mean, she did so many different things. Remember her being in theater?
Yes.
Music theater.
Yes,
I know this
do.
from St. Paul.
I think we cut our teeth here at St. Paul. We were taught to get up in front of people and speak at a very young age. And so that's how I know myself and Carla have been able to do it for many years, and Boo as well.
Karen is a woman of many firsts. She was Dow's first ever Chief Inclusion Officer. She was the first ever Black woman to become an executive officer at Dow. And what I love most about Karen is she's not just blazing the trail for herself, but she's thinking about those that's coming behind her.
People need to see themselves in roles they aspire to, so they can believe it's possible for them too. And companies need to ensure fairness and equity so that everyone, including people who look like me, have a fair shot at all jobs in an organization, from the executive wing to the front line.
Karen is just, she's one of a kind, and she is inspirational. She leads both with her head and her heart. You know, she's worked in Dow in many different places, starting out as a summer intern, from Chicago to Shanghai to Texas to Michigan. She can relate to people at the boardroom level, at the shop floor level, and really in every environment I have seen her be able to uniquely relate to people.
I was thinking how interesting it is that this young person who goes to Howard University, goes through internship with one of the major corporations in this country, and then eventually is a power broker in that company. That's something that is gratifying, it's eye-opening, and it points for other little Black girls who are going through their educational journey that I could be a Karen. That, I think, speaks volumes, because we have to have those people who point the way.
My advice for future trailblazers is first, know who you are, and then know why you are here. What is your purpose? Ground yourself in authenticity, and don't let anyone tell you what you cannot achieve. When we have the courage to walk into our story and own it, we get to write the ending.
Karen Boo Shepherd Carter, just want to let you know how extremely proud I am that you have been chosen as a Kansas African American Museum Trailblazer this year. You are so deserving, and I'm grateful that people for years to come will be able to learn about you, know your story, and know the tremendous impact that you have had on this world.
Everything my sister said, truly. The sacrifices that you have made, the wonderful work that you have accomplished. You have such a giving spirit. We all are benefactors.
Absolutely.
From all that you have done. We're so, so proud. Daddy and Mom. Daddy would be so proud. My
Oh,
God,
yes.
He would be, you know, and we know Mama is. No
Very
doubt.
proud.
Know that we love you, and we know the best is yet to come. You're just
Absolutely.
getting started. Mwah. You're a girl from the very beginning.
Yes.
We love you so much.
I would say to Karen S. Carter, keep shining. The world needs more of your light, and there are people like me who believe that they can be just because you are.
I am incredibly humbled and honored to be inducted into the Trailblazers Hall of Fame of the Kansas African American Museum, and I am proud to be joining such extraordinary pioneers. This is especially meaningful and momentous for me because Wichita is where I was raised, and Wichita is where I will return. There is simply no place like home. And I believe that my ancestors are dancing today because this is the manifestation of the sacrifices of so many who came before me. This achievement is possible because of the support of my entire family, especially my husband, Gary Carter. He is the best role model for excellence, love, and grace. He is the example I aspire to. I'm also keenly aware that others have blazed trails ahead of me and guided me on this journey, especially my trailblazing mother, who raised me and my sisters when my father passed away when I was just 9 years old. She is a tremendous example of resilience and determination. If I ever need to center myself on what is most important, I look to my mother. If I ever need to ground myself in what is right, I look to my mother. If I ever need to find the strength to be the person I seek to be, I look to my mother. She has always been and will always be my anchor, my inspiration, and my guiding light. I thank the Kansas African American Museum for this extraordinary honor. You inspire me to embrace the future, to be more, to do more, and to make the greatest difference possible. Thank you.
We would like to thank our honorary sponsor, Dow, Packaging and Specialty Plastics.
Who are we? We are the Kansas African American Museum, where we serve as the cultural hub for innovative collaboration, familial and historic storytelling, as well as thought-provoking exhibitions and interactive learning centered around the African American experience.
On behalf of our Board of Directors, I invite you to become a member and supporter of the Kansas African American Museum. We are art, we are education, we are history, we are culture.
We would like to thank Meritrust Credit Union as our heritage sponsor for the evening. Innovate.
Education. Our mission at the Kansas African American Museum is to educate all individuals using transformative educational programming. Using a variety of platforms to inspire, ignite, engage, participants expand their understanding and celebrate the Kansas African American experience. We've developed innovative methods which include technology, art, history, and culture. TKAAM infuses inclusivity and appreciation for all cultural intersections.
Our next honoree has achieved legendary producer status in the music industry by collaborating with some of the nation's biggest recording artists. Tonight, here to introduce his story is our very own Ebony Clemens.
Thank you, Felicia. I am Ebony S. Clemens, Manager of Economic Development in Kansas and Missouri for Evergy. Ladies and gentlemen, our next honoree is being recognized for his breathtaking scope of achievement. He is a national phenom whose impact of taking music and redefining it is felt globally. I am delighted to present Brian Alexander Morgan as a 2023 Kansas African American Museum Trailblazer.
Brian is talented. Everybody loves Brian. I mean, it's like everybody just like Brian. I mean, when we heard Brian's stuff, it was just like a no-brainer. It was magic.
Mastermind behind all of those great songs. I'm so into you. Right here. You're always on my mind. And this wonderful song that y'all love so much, Weak in the Knees. Give it up for Brian Morgan!
Well, I met Brian when he was 12 years old. I knew his mother and his dad, and some friends of mine invited me to the church where Brian used to play at. And that's when I got a chance to meet him and see him when he was 12. I invite Brian over to my house or down to the neighbor's house who was a mutual friend of ours. And I would listen to him sit and play the piano, and he was just incredible at a young age.
I am Brian Alexander Morgan. I was born in Wichita, Kansas, lived there until I was 21. I've worked in the record business since I got signed to Warner Brothers at 21 in 1987, and through the grace of the Creator, I'm still here working, and it's a blessing, man. So just happy to still be here. Okay, so you got to start in the 70s, obviously, when records are influencing me. Jackson 5, Sly and the Family Stone, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway. As I got a little bit older and started playing more Stevie Wonder, because now I'm realizing, hey, playing keys and singing go together. So I had a very early idea about trying to get in the record business, like in elementary school. And then by the time I hit high school, I was very serious about it and had made the demo that made it happen.
He never let things get him down. He continued to write. He continued to meet new people. And it was because of that he met a young lady at the time who introduced him to a producer named Jay King, who was in town with a named act at that time.
1986 was pivotal, was that we met a manager guy that said, he was in Kansas, this guy, said he could get us a record deal. So we trekked out to LA. Jay King from Club Nouveau, who was blowing up in 1986, coming through town. A buddy of mine was a fan of theirs. Took the demo we made and let this person, Jay King, hear it. That was it. I moved to California from that moment because Benny Medina, who was his boss at the label, who Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was created on, and he manages J-Lo to this day, signed me at 21. And that's how I got in the record business.
It's a fine line difference between a producer, engineer, and a musician. Musician, technically, really is someone who actually, plays the instrument, knows how to play in any setting from there. Producer doesn't have to necessarily play anything. Producer technically is one that produces a project or produces a musical composition. Engineer is the tech savvy of it, turning of the knobs, knowing your frequencies, knowing your compressions, knowing how to work with analog gear. What makes Brian so great is Brian is also an excellent songwriter. So with that all tying in from there, his greatest success has come from songs that he has written for certain groups to sing. For example, the SWV, the whole crew from there.
Yeah, he's definitely that guy, for sure. I'll put it that way. He's definitely that guy. As far as the people that he's worked with, I mean, maybe the people that he hasn't worked with might be shorter, but I'll give you a few. Drake worked on the Views album. Faith Evans, Mariah Carey, of course, SWV, Chris Brown, Missy Elliott, Nicole. So I don't even know how he wraps his head around it daily, like this is his life.
It's like I said, it's amazing to see the things that he was doing back in sonically, and it's still relevant to this day.
The bulk of my stuff from the 90s set an example of a certain thing. I find that amazing, and I say to them, well, thank God I'm doing what my Trailblazers did for me, and that is set a bar and then have someone try to meet or rise above it.
I felt that he would be successful because Brian had it. He just had that it factor. He couldn't be denied. He had perfect pitch. He could sing well. He could write. He could play. He had all of those things that you couldn't deny his level of talent.
I'm completely honored, number one. Number two, it's nice to know that I've done good and represent where I'm from, I think, well. We need to educate our kids in addition to just theology, just actual history. You got to have both, because I was unequipped in my younger years to be able to battle the forces of what we are dealing with now, which is such ignorance and people trying to erase our history. So I embrace this award because it's celebrating our history. Yo, I'm so honored to accept this Trailblazer Award from the Kansas African American Museum. It means a lot to me, man, just to connect back to my roots, where I'm from, and know I did good for my hometown, and I love every one of you. Thank you so much for considering me.
We would like to thank Capital Federal Bank, our print sponsor for the evening.
Who are we? We are the Kansas African American Museum, where we provide a culminating experience of people, pride, and place. We celebrate the richness of the African American experience and its influence on American culture and history that continues to define our country today. We are more than the housing of collections. We provide a space to explore, reflect, and remind us of our interconnectedness. We invite you to become a member and supporter of the Kansas African American Museum. We are culture.
We would like to thank Robert Brogdon Automotive as our Hall of Fame sponsor for the evening.
Congratulations, Brian. What a talent you are, and thank you so much for all that you do. Now, our next honoree has been a past TKAAM board president and a current U.S. magistrate judge for the District Court of Kansas. To share more is TKAAM board member Ed Watson.
Hello, I'm Ed Watson, a partner with the Folston Law Firm and a committed board member of the Kansas African American Museum. I am honored tonight to present the 2023 Trailblazer Hall of Fame Award to a quintessential trailblazer who throughout her career has carved a path for herself and others by knocking down barriers and opening doors for women and people of color. Congratulations to Federal Magistrate Judge Gwen Burser, my friend, for personifying excellence in the field of law and justice.
My name is Julie Robinson, and I am a senior United States District Judge. Magistrate judges are appointed for 8-year terms, and they're selected by the United States District Judges. So I was part of the group, it was the district judges in Kansas, that vetted applicants and made the decision to appoint Judge Burser. Burser, like all of the other applicants, had a strong academic and a strong record of practice. But I think what lifted her above the others was we could tell that she had judicial temperament. And by that I mean patience and humility and empathy.
So I'm Gwen Burser, and I'm a United States Magistrate Judge for the District of Kansas. When I was a senior in high school, we took the civil service test. By the end of May, I got a letter from the Social Security Administration offering me a job. We couldn't afford college, so I worked for the Social Security Administration for 7 years. About 5 years into that, I started to realize that I didn't want to be a clerk typist forever. I wanted, just kind of more. I wanted to move up. I knew I couldn't move up without an education. Kansas City, Kansas Community College was right in the heart of the community where we lived, and so that's where I started. 2 years went by faster than I could imagine, and so I was staring down the barrel of an associate's degree and graduating. When I started to apply to law school, and I was admitted into law school, I started at the University of Missouri at Columbia. So I completed my first year of law school at Mizzou, but then my sister died. She was 29 years old. She died from an aneurysm. And so she had a daughter that was 8 years old. So I became my niece's legal guardian. I transferred from Mizzou and started my second year of law school at Washburn. And I can remember Keisha going to class with me, coloring in the back of the room because I had to be in class. And time went fast. Before I knew it, I was graduating, I was taking the bar, and I got my first job as a public defender.
I first met Judge Gwen Burser in 2005. I was an associate attorney at law firm of Height, Fanning & Honeyman, and we were looking for a new attorney in the healthcare law. So she had experience. She was fearless. She was willing to try anything new. And she had a relatability to her that was really unique, really extended through her entire career. She can relate to anyone.
We met in Topeka, Kansas at a dinner party. We were invited to dinner with a couple that we both knew. And of course, for me, it was love at first sight. And That was in December of 2000, and we were married 6 months later, May 21st of 2001. And her aspiration from the day I met her 23 years ago was to get on the bench, to become a judge. And I can tell you though, but she had worked so hard for that. You know, I watched her work the extra effort throughout her legal career.
To be my niece's legal guardian, I had to go through probate court because she was a minor and it was a, probate kind of thing because I was seeking legal guardianship. And I remember the judge that presided over our case. He helped me to realize the responsibility that I was taking on. He helped my niece and I realize that we would grieve, but we could make it. It gave me confidence that we could do this. And I remember walking out of his courtroom thinking, if I could make people feel like this, that is the kind of job that I want to do. And that is what planted the seed for me to want to do the work of the judiciary. Not just be a judge, but do the work of the judiciary.
She's worked for the prosecutor's office, the DA's office, and so all those things are part of who has made her become who she is, because it was educating her to get to the point where she's at. She's done corporate law. So I think sitting in all the different seats of law has propelled her into who she is now.
She never let obstacles stand in her way. She still took every opportunity that presented itself to learn more about the law, to gain experience, and all of that helped her become a better judge. She has an innate sense of right and wrong. It's at the core of who she is, and so that helps her make better decisions about people's future. I think that plays into how resilient and how determined she is.
Judge Berzer does have a lot of empathy, and she has a lot of understanding of how people can overcome difficulties and adversity in their life. I think when she looks at people, whether it's in a civil case or a criminal case, she may see hope and she may see strength that others may not see, just because she's had those life experiences. And the way that she interacts with people instantly, I think, puts them at ease and makes them understand they're going to get fairness and they're going to get impartiality and they're going to get somebody that really does care about them.
I can't count the number of students of color that I've had over the years that they express an interest in the law or going to law school. And some of them are coming from very bad backgrounds, impoverished. I set them up to go see Judge Berzer. And they come back and say, we just loved your wife. And years later, those students now, they're practicing law, many of them. And so it is humbling to see that, it really is, and that she has made that difference.
A trailblazer is someone that has to fight through the adversity. No one has come before them. They've had to prove themselves over and over and over again throughout the course of their journey, throughout the course of their career. But in doing that, they widen the path, if you will, for others that are coming behind them. Judge Berzer is a trailblazer.
There's no stopping Judge Berzer. Anything that she sets her mind to, I believe that she can do. She was the first African-American woman at our law firm, ultimately the first African-American woman who became partner at our law firm, and then she became a magistrate judge. All things that have not been done before her, and so it's really incredible to watch her journey.
As you watch her, she is an encourager. She inspires you to do better, ignites something in you that makes you want to, I can do that.
I do try to live my life to inspire others to reach for the sky and for the stars and be the best that they can be in whatever they do. It's my duty to inspire people to be the best that they can be and that they can get there. They just have to keep going. Thank you to the Board of Directors of the Kansas African American Museum. I never would have imagined that this honor would be bestowed on me, so I humbly and graciously accept this honor. I'm proud to represent the Kansas African American Museum in this capacity, so I do want to acknowledge all of the people that I have encountered on my journey throughout my life to get me to this point and to have the status of a trailblazer of the Kansas African American Museum. I could not have done that without any of you.
Embracing the future.
Greetings. I am Ebony S. Clemens, President of the Board of Directors for our Kansas African American Museum. TKAAM is moving forward in fulfilling the vision to serve as a cultural hub for interactive learning centered around the African American experience, innovative collaboration, and immersive experiences using technology that bridges the past to the present. On behalf of the Board of Directors, staff, volunteers, and stakeholders, we are proud to share that TKAAM has embarked upon a $6 million capital campaign to relocate to an exciting new location in downtown Wichita. Yes, this new facility doubles our physical presence, secures our expansive collection, provides more opportunities for significant works and exhibitions, and lastly, will allow for an enhanced educational and culturally focused experience for both students and adults alike. At TKAAM, we celebrate and share the richness of the African American experience and its strong influence on American society each and every day. So we would like to invite you to be a part of our journey to create a bold and engaging culture center that will add to the cultural vibrancy of our city, state, and region. Please consider going to the website to join the campaign today. And remember, at TKAAM, we are culture.
Thank you, Ebony. This hour has been remarkable. To recognize the richness of the Kansas African American experience and the impact of the 2023 Trailblazers through their achievements in technological advancement, business leadership, arts and culture, and our judicial system is truly fulfilling the vision and mission of the Kansas African American Museum. Now, the mission of the Kansas African American Museum endeavors to make the Kansas African American experience resonate with every Kansan, and through technology with all people. And the vision of the Kansas African American Museum is to be the premier place where the communities come to learn about or tell the Kansas African American story. We sure appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you so much.
We hope that you join us again next year.
I see you staring across the room. You see me looking too. Tell me, should I pursue? Baby, you should dance with me. Then maybe we can see what is this chemistry between you and me. I think there's a chance that we were meant to be, and I want to see. It feels like a fantasy when you dance with me, baby. Can't you see? I'm waiting for you to move on and move on it, groove on and groove on it. I want you only, you only, you only, you. Move on and move on it, groove on and groove on it. I want you only, you only, you only, you only. Move on and move on it, groove on and groove on it. I want you only, you only, you only, you. And I